The plasma wrench clattered to the deck plating as Jack wiped grease from his hands, his human fingers still trembling from the precision work he'd just completed on the station's main power coupling. He didn't look up when he heard the heavy footfalls approaching. He knew that distinctive gait anywhere. Human. The voice was cold, layered with the harmonic undertones that marked Draconians as one of the galaxy's apex predator species. Your employment is terminated. Effective immediately. Jack finally looked up at Emma, his boss for the past 3 cycles. She towered over him, nearly 8 feet of scaled muscle and controlled fury. Her crimson scales caught the harsh overhead lights, and her golden eyes, those predator's eyes that could track a target from 3 kilometers, fixed on him with what might have been regret. Or perhaps that was just wishful thinking. Ma'am? Jack stood slowly, careful not to make sudden movements. Draconians respected strength, but they also had hair-trigger aggression responses. Did I do something wrong? You exist, Emma said flatly. Her tail lashed once, a sign of agitation Jack had learned to read over their time working together. That is enough. The Council has made their position clear. No humans in critical infrastructure positions. Security risk. Jack felt something cold settle in his chest. This again. Always this. Humanity had joined the Galactic Assembly only 2 decades ago, and the other species still treated them like children playing with tools they didn't understand. Never mind that human innovation had revolutionized half the technologies the galaxy relied on. Never mind that Jack had personally increased this station's efficiency by 18%. The coupling I just repaired? Jack started. Will be inspected and likely redone by a Thracian engineer, Emma interrupted. She wouldn't need his eyes now. I'm sorry, Jack. This comes from higher up than me. You have 1 hour to clear your belongings from the station. She turned to leave, her uniform cape swirling with the movement. Jack watched her go, feeling the familiar burn of injustice. 3 cycles of perfect service. 3 cycles of proving himself. And it meant nothing. He was halfway through packing his personal toolkit when the station's klaxons began to wail. Emma stood on the command deck, her claws gripping the tactical console hard enough to leave gouges in the metal. The view screen showed a ship she'd hoped never to see again, sleek, black, predatory in a way that made even her draconian instincts scream danger. Identify yourself, she commanded. Her voice steady despite the ice flooding her veins. The response came in a voice that bypassed the station's communication systems entirely, resonating directly from the ship itself. And worse, far worse, it spoke a name she hadn't heard in 15 cycles. Charthema. Daughter of the Crimson Flame, bearer of the Blood Oath, your debt comes due. Every scale on Emma's body stood rigid. Around her, the mixed-species crew of the station turned to stare. None of them had ever heard her true name, her secret name, the one given to her in the hatching fires, the one that carried the weight of obligations and ancient promises. Clear the deck, she said quietly. When no one moved, her head snapped around and she roared, Now! The crew scrambled for the exits, all except one. Jack stood in the doorway, his toolkit over his shoulder, his human face showing that infuriating mixture of curiosity and stubbornness that had made him both her best mechanic and her constant headache. You're supposed to be off this station, Emma hissed. Yeah. Well, you're supposed to be someone named Emma who runs a repair station, Jack shot back. Guess we're both full of surprises. What's happening? Before Emma could respond, the ship transmitted again. We know you harbor a human. The one called Jack Mercer. Send him out, and your oath will be considered satisfied. Emma's blood went cold. No, impossible. How could they know about Jack? How could they possibly? The pieces clicked together with horrible clarity. The Council's sudden demand to fire all human workers. The specific timing. This hadn't been about security at all. This had been about delivering Jack to them. What did I do? Jack asked, his voice carefully neutral in that way humans had when they were absolutely terrified but determined not to show it. You're human, Emma said softly. And apparently that's enough. She stared at the view screen, at the ship that represented everything she'd run from 15 cycles ago. She'd been young then, stupid, desperate. She'd made a blood oath to the Shadow Syndicate, the galaxy's most ruthless criminal organization, in exchange for saving her clutch siblings from a plague. The debt was meant to be simple. One favor, called in whenever they chose. She'd never imagined they'd ask for this. Counterproposal, Emma said aloud, her claws flexing. You leave this system and never speak my name again. The human stays. Silence from the ship. Then, you would break a blood oath for a human? For this creature whose species hasn't even mastered quantum coherence? You would doom yourself to eternal dishonor for— Yes, Emma interrupted. Her tail lashed in challenge. I would. Jack moved beside her, his small human frame almost comical next to her bulk. But there was nothing comical about the way he pulled a data chip from his toolkit and slotted it into the command console. What are you? Emma started. 3 cycles, Jack said, his fingers flying across human design interfaces that responded faster than any draconian could manage. 3 cycles of you teaching me this station's systems. Did you think I was only learning to fix power couplings? The view screen lit up with a cascade of data, schematics, financial records, communication logs. And there, in the center, a complete map of Shadow Syndicate operations across 14 sectors, compiled from fragments Jack had apparently been collecting the entire time he'd worked on the station. Human intelligence networks are very interested in the Shadow Syndicate, Jack said calmly. This data will dismantle about 40% of their operations. If I transmit it right now, they'll be too busy running for cover to worry about blood oaths or secret names. Emma stared at him. You knew? I'm human, Jack said with a slight smile. We're good at 2 things, fixing what's broken and figuring out what people are hiding. You've been protecting someone or running from something since I met you. Didn't take much to piece together which? His expression grew serious. You didn't have to fire me to protect me. You could have just asked. The ship began powering weapons. Emma's claws moved faster than thought, and suddenly she and Jack were both at the tactical console, working in perfect synchronization, her strength and reach combined with his speed and precision. Raising shields, Emma growled. Activating the defense grid I may have secretly installed using spare parts from decommissioned freighters, Jack added. You what? In my defense, I was really bored during 3rd shift. The Shadow Syndicate ship opened fire, but the station's shields, reinforced by Jack's unauthorized modifications, held. Return fire lanced out, human-designed weapons with draconian power systems behind them. The combination was devastating. They're retreating, Emma said, almost disbelieving. How humans learned a long time ago, Jack said. Transmitting the data package to every major news outlet in the sector simultaneously. That the best way to beat a stronger enemy is to make sure fighting you costs more than you're worth. And to have really good friends. Emma really looked at him. This human she'd hired despite the Council's reservations. This human she'd fired to protect from her own past. This human who'd apparently spent 3 cycles quietly building contingencies to protect her right back. The Council will still want you gone, she said quietly. Probably, Jack agreed. But I'm thinking maybe we both quit this station? I hear the frontier colonies are hiring. Especially mixed teams. Human ingenuity and draconian muscle have a way of solving problems. Emma's laugh was a low rumble that shook the deck plating. You're suggesting we become partners? I'm suggesting, Jack said, that humanity's best trait is loyalty to people who deserve it. You protected me even though it meant breaking a blood oath. That's worth more than any council regulation. Emma extended one massive claw. Jack gripped it with his small human hand, and they shook on it, a gesture from his world adopted into a promise neither would break. Outside, the stars beckoned. And somewhere in the darkness, the galaxy was learning what humanity had known all along, that the strongest bonds aren't forged by scales or claws or ancient oaths, but by simple choice to stand together when everything else says to stand apart. That was the day the galaxy learned why humans, despite being small and soft and impossibly fragile, were never to be underestimated. and why anyone who earned a human's loyalty had just gained the most dangerous ally in the known universe.